bucket.io, and if you have any questions, we'll be answering those in the call. But one of the big things that I want to tell you about, if you haven't been on one of these calls before, is at the end you'll be invited to schedule a one-on-one call with a bucket specialist. That could be myself or another one of our awesome specialists here. It's a 100% free call, and what we'll do is I'll try to answer as many of your questions as we can here, but if there's that extra little thing that we need to get you over the hump and get you moving forward using Bucket, then myself or one of the other specialists will be happy to get on the phone with you and help you do that. And so by the end of this call, there's two major objectives I want to make sure that we get covered here. And number one, I want you to know how to build a discovery survey. If you haven't built one yet, this is one of the core tools inside of bucket.io. And then once you know how to launch or build and launch a discovery survey, we're going to walk you through launching a segmentation funnel. And so getting started with that, we're going to walk first through building a discovery survey. And again, this is the tool that you'll use to gain insight about your market. This call is probably going to take anywhere between, I always say 45 minutes to an hour. It may go a little bit over once we start taking the Q&A. I will definitely try to do my best to get us to that Q&A as quickly as possible. There's just a lot of ground we're going to cover. So if you have questions as we're going through, definitely put those in the chat, and we'll make sure we get everyone covered by the end of the call. So let's jump into building a discovery survey. Like I said before, this is one of the key tools inside of Bucket. But before we actually go into the software and start building this thing and looking at all the options available for building a discovery survey, I want to point this thing out real quick. Both discovery and segmentation funnels follow the same workflow. And the way that works is when you go to create a new survey or a new segmentation funnel, your first step is to build it. Add the questions, make it look, flow correctly and look correctly. Set up all the parts of the tool that you'll need to run a successful survey or segmentation. The next step after you're done building it is to go into the design phase where you just put the tweaks on your logo, maybe some background images, change the colors if you want to. Then you've got the configure phase where you do your integrations with your email service providers or add your Facebook pixels or other tracking. And then finally you go to the publish phase where you get you take your survey or your segmentation funnel live. And you'll be given your link to send out to the world, and let the survey taking commence. So I just wanted to point that out so that you understand that each of these tools follow this exact workflow. So why don't we get to the good stuff? Let's go in and build our first build a discovery survey. Actually, let me back over here, because when you first log into Bucket, this is the screen you'll see. I'm sure most of you have already been in here, and it is simple to just create a discovery survey or a segmentation funnel from this screen. But what we're going to do today, if you haven't used this menu up here yet, what you'll want to do is click Discover, and this will take you to all of your surveys. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through one that I've already built and just show you all the different elements of it, and I'll show you what it looks like live. So we're going to walk through and take one that isn't published and get it published. But before I do that, I want to show you that you can actually start a new discovery survey project from the screen as well. You just click this blue plus sign. You'll be taken to the screen to choose your discovery survey type. All right, and for this call, we're going to be doing a full-page discovery survey. What that means is the whole survey is you would just basically send a link to people, and they would come and take the survey all within bucket.io. However, you can also have a button. So if you have like a high-traffic blog post or your homepage on your website. Anywhere that has traffic and you want to have those people on those pages or that website take your survey, you can also publish as a button. And what that does is bucket.io will give you the button code to put on that page, and the survey itself will just be a pop-up. So if someone hits your website, they hit the button, it'll do a pop-up where they can take your survey right there on your website. So like I said, in this example, we'll be doing a full page. So I'll click on that, and you'll see the next screen here will tell you to give your discovery survey a name. Now, it says add public name, and a lot of people think, oh no, this is the name that people are going to see when my survey goes live. That's not the case. By public name, this is the public name that you will see throughout Bucket and in Zapier and other places, but it's for your eyes only, basically. So make sure when you create your discovery survey name, it's something that you will instantly recognize. And you can always add an internal name. That way, if later on, if you've got some surveys that are similar, maybe you want to date them in this thing, you can definitely do that as well. So I'm going to close this because, like I said, we've got one that we've already built, and you'll see it's a copy of one that I've created before. I'm going to walk you through the workflow, like we had pointed out earlier. So what I'm going to do here, since I already have this thing built, I'm going to click on the Edit button. All right? And that will take us into, just as though we were creating it for the first time, it brings us into the build screen. There's a couple of things I want to walk you through in the build screen here. First is the welcome page. So as you'll notice here, I don't currently have a welcome page. And I'm not going to use one for this specific survey. The reason why is if you don't have a welcome page, it takes your audience straight to the very first question. But let's say no one knows exactly what to expect. If you didn't know you were going to a survey, I would want to tell you about that survey, and that's where the welcome page comes into play. So what the welcome page is basically like a landing page, like if you had lead pages, ClickFunnels, or a builder on WordPress. It's similar to that, where you have the ability to control all of the elements and customize all the elements on the screen. So as you can see here, you can control the headline. We'll say, this is an awesome survey. You can add, and control the subhead. And on any of these elements, let's say you don't need a subhead. Well, then you could just turn that off. If you don't need the body text, you could turn that off. You could turn it on and control how much copy is on your welcome page, aka your survey landing page. You can also add images or videos. And as far as video goes, you can use any platform, any video sharing platform that has embed code. YouTube, Wistia, Facebook. I'll show you a couple with video on them shortly, so you can see what one of these landing pages looks like with video on it. But again, like I said, you can either do that or you can add a compelling image. And as you can see here, the image would just show up on the screen. And then you have your call to action button where you can change and customize the copy on that as well. And then once somebody clicks that, they'll be taken to the first question of your survey. All right? And so like I said, I'm going to remove this welcome page. It's not mandatory to have one. Like I said before, the reason you would want one is, let's say you're just putting a link out on Facebook or somewhere on social, or just running an ad to it maybe, or just you're sending people to it and they don't know that they're going to a survey, and you want to tell them more about what they're going to be doing and why they're taking it. A welcome page would be great. If you're already setting it up, like maybe you send an email out to people, then you really don't need a welcome page. So it's totally optional. I'm going to delete this one. And let's get into building our survey with our questions. There are your elements for your questions are over on the left here. So if you wanted to add a question, all you do is just drag that over to the builder. I'm going to hit cancel on this. So your short text is if you just have a one-word response or a very short response. It is open-ended, but it's not like you wouldn't ask somebody to put in a large paragraph. For a paragraph and large open-ended questions, you would use long text. And I've got an example of that over here. If you want to give somebody a multiple choice where they can only choose one, you would choose radio. And which basically all you do is just drag that over to the drag and drop questions. And if you have multiple questions, or I say not multiple questions, but if you want to allow your user to give you multiple answers, you would choose checkbox. And that gives them, they can choose A, B, C, and D instead of just one of the choices. As you can see, this is the radio button, and for each of them, that you have the icon, so you know which one is out there. So, like, let me just real quick show you this. So you can see, radio button has this little dot with the circle in it, or circle with a dot in it, and then the checkbox has the square with the check mark in it, so you know just right off the bat which one you're using. One thing I want to point out about adding these multiple choice questions in, so what you do is you put your question in, and when it says question name, what you're really going to be doing here, this is the question that this is what your users are going to see. So you could say, here, are you male or female? And then you could add a sub question, sub description here, something to the effect of just checking. Now, when you add your options in, you can add as many as you like here. All you got to do is just enter your response, add the option, and one thing I want to point out is this option here to add other. Once you check this box, what it does is it adds an other to the bottom. So no matter how many questions you have, it'll always add this to the bottom, and then once someone checks that, it will open up a short text one-liner so that you can have your survey takers actually fill in an open-ended question for you, or an open-ended response, I should say. Right, I'm going to cancel that because we're not going to be using it. Now let's get into the, this is the long text. And I want you to, there's a few configurations here that I want to point out before we move forward. So as you can see here, the question name is the actual question itself, and you'll see here under where it says choose text box height, you've got the option of choosing the number of rows. Now that number makes the box look like it would accept more or less of a large response. So if you've got 4 rows in there, it looks like someone can fill in quite a bit of information. And again, the lower the number, the smaller the box. You'll see this check mark here where it says single most important question. If you choose that and you check this, what bucket.io will do is in our analytics, we will calculate this question differently. So once this box is marked as the single most important question, if you've got multiple open-ended, it will treat this one, the one that you have checked as SMIQ, as the most important, and it will do additional analysis and scoring on this question. So you'll save that, and now we've got, so on this one, as you can see, we've only got one question for our survey. The next section here would be to add the contact information, and I'm going to take you to this page.
Hey, Jeremy, I apologize to pop in EA here real quick. We had a quick question here that we had a few people ask on your question section, so I figured we could ask it real quick.
Yep,
once you've created a question, once you've created a question, can you change the question type once you've created it?
No. Okay, so let me back out. Save that. So let's say I accidentally made that a short text. And I was like, oh no, what did I do? I meant for it to be long text. Well, what you will have to do is you can't actually change a question type. So what you would do here is you would just pull it up and then just copy and put that all into your new one. And then save the new one and then delete the old one. That's how you would. I mean, that's the only way to actually quote change a type, but you can't change it as part of like a drop down of the type of question it is. Does that make sense?
It does, and people are saying thanks. So thank
You're
you.
welcome. Yep. Thanks for pointing that out. That's actually the first time I've been asked that. So once you've got your questions in, you come down here again. We were at the contact information screen, and as you can see here, just like the welcome page, landing page builder, you have complete control over the content of this page as well. So you can change your headline. You can add a subhead in there. You can also add an image or video. And again, this is the screen where you're capturing your survey taker's contact information. So if it's someone who doesn't know you quite well, you may want to spend a little more time getting there, convincing them to fill out this information. So we've made this page completely customizable to allow you to work on those conversions. Body text. Now, here's a couple of things to point out. This is the actual form itself. So the name is customizable or optional. You don't have to ask for a name, but you have that available. Email address, you do have to ask for an email address. And now there's these other options, the phone and other. In other, you can make that any other necessary piece of information. It's also a short text, so it's the one-liner, but you could ask whatever you want in there. So if you maybe wanted a zip code or anything that's pertinent to your survey, you could ask that here. Now I want to take you up to phone real quick. If you ask for phone number, and the bucket.io will use that. Anyone who enters their phone number in here, bucket.io will use that in our calculations and your scoring in the analytics portion of your survey. But if you don't have it, it won't use that as part of the calculations. So it is optional, but just know that by asking, Bucket will use this information from your email and your phone number to help score your responses, so that you know which ones you could pay more attention to. All right. Let's turn that off because we just don't need it. And if you haven't been able to tell yet, what I'm basically doing here is I'm building the survey that I'm going to send you so that you can schedule your one-on-one calls with a Bucket specialist. Now, once you've created and customized your contact information screen, you will go to you'll add a thank you page. If you don't add a thank you page, Bucket just has like a generic thank you with a checkbox at the end. Very underwhelming, but it does let them know that they've reached the end of the survey. So if you don't have a custom message at the end, don't worry, you don't have to put that in. But if you do, let's take a look at what it looks like. Familiar, huh? This is the exact same type of screen, and you have the same control over the content of your thank you page as you do all your other screens, the welcome page and your contact info. You can add as much content on here as you'd like. There's one difference, though. On the thank you page for your discovery survey, you can add a call to action and a link off to wherever you want it to go. So let's say at the beginning of your survey, you said, hey, if you take this survey, I will give you this thing, a coupon or a checklist of sorts or some kind of digital giveaway. You could let them download that here. You could say something to the effect of download your thing or get your coupon, and you would put the link to that in the button URL. As you can see here, I say schedule call, and that takes you to our scheduling software. I've seen people do, visit us or like our Facebook page, and you could put a link to your Facebook in here as well. Again, you can link to anything on this screen. So this is where you do that. You just put the button text, call to action, and put the URL, and save that. And now we have built our discovery survey. And you can see here where it's got the red for the welcome. It means we just didn't add a welcome page, but everything else is green. This is how you know you have at least added the elements that you were wanting to add on your survey. Okay? So now that we have it built, we want to go add some design features to it, right, so that it looks good. Because if you don't add any design features, it's simply a white background with a white form on it. All right? So if you want to just put something plain out, you can, but if you don't, here's where you will go to start adding your customization. The first thing up is the header. This is where you can add your logo. If you wanted to add like a phone number or some other message that lasts throughout the entire survey, you can choose header text here. And you can change the color of this as well. So if you have a dark background like that, it wouldn't get washed out like it is here. Here's one thing I want to point out to those of you who may be doing funnels for other people. You can change this logo and background and design. You can make that different for every survey that you do. So you can totally white label every survey that you launch, and the same with segmentation. Everything is encapsulated in each of your projects, again, so that you can make every single one of them look exactly the same or totally different. So once you've added your logo, you can come down here and do things like add footer navigation, so that if you need to add, privacy policy, terms of service, maybe just different links to the rest of your website, whatever you need to do for, let's say, compliance purposes. If you're paying for advertising, you can add all of that here in the footer. You can change the font, change the font size. Here, it always starts off as medium, but you can change it to make it a small, medium, or large. You can choose a different font. The default is Open Sans. I'm going to go with Sans. And but you can change that here as well. You can also add, as you can see, a background image. You can change the color of the background if you choose to do that. And so if you don't have a background image and you just want to make it fit your color scheme, you'll click on background, change that. And you can also change the background if you want different backgrounds for like your welcome page or the contact information page. You can do that as well. And on the thank you page. You can also change the color scheme of your funnel. So if you don't want your button to be orange, you can change that. If you want to darken the fonts of, let's say, the responses or the questions or the any other font, you have that ability to do that here. I know a lot of people have told me that sometimes the default seems a little light. Well, you can always come in and darken those here. This is where you'll do that. Or if you have a color scheme that fits your business, again, this is where you can do that. And if you wanted to go into like another color editor and choose the hex colors, you can simply paste those in here as well. I bring that up because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they needed to do that. So I thought I'd point that out here. All right, and now once you are done designing and adding those design tweaks onto your survey, the next step is, you guessed it, configure. I will save these changes. This is where you're going to make a lot of, this is where you're going to do a lot of your integrations. You're going to add your tracking code. There is one thing you can change the name here if you want. So I'm going to do here. I'm just going to change this to 9 a.m. And my internal name is, like I told you earlier. One of the big things that you want to make sure you do on this screen before you publish is to edit your meta information, all right? And I always want to point this out, because if you don't fill this in, if you don't put get live one-on help with bucket.io, and let's say I pasted this link on Facebook or in my email or some other social site, right? What would happen is the people seeing the link would see, no title, get started with bucket.io or something like that. It would not have anything to do with your survey or segmentation funnel. So you want to make sure that you get this filled in and that it describes what the person can expect when they click on the link. Again, because if you don't, it'll look ugly, and that will dramatically impact the people clicking on it. There are some other options here. An image, you can add an image so that when you paste the link, an image pops up with it as well. That's huge. The better looking your image that you put in here, and it does come with the recommended image size. Again, the more relevant, the more likely someone is to click it and come to take your survey. If you can see here, there's the head tracking code. So if you've got some third-party tracking that you use that belongs in the head of a page, you can put that here. You can also add continue buttons and back buttons and have progress bars. Again, these are some more kind of lighter tweaks as part of your configuration. But let's take a look at integration real quick. I'm not going to go super deep on this, but I do want to point out how integration works, because most of you, I believe, will be connecting Bucket to your email service provider. And the way that we do that with Bucket, so that we can connect with pretty much every email service provider out there, is we use Zapier, because they connect with. Zapier's job is to connect softwares to other softwares. So in this case, bucket.io is a software, and your email service provider is a software. So we're going to be using Zapier to connect the two softwares together, so that when someone takes a survey or fills out a segmentation funnel, you can send the information that, whether it's the email address by itself or the actual responses that the person gives you in their survey or segmentation funnel. You can send that information over to your email marketing service like MailChimp or Infusionsoft or ActiveCampaign. You can send that stuff over there to use later in your email marketing. So, like I said, I'm not going to go super deep into this, but I will just kind of walk you through a few of the steps. So what you will do is you'll click on the integrate button here when you're ready to connect your survey to your email service provider. And then you'll see this box here that says Zapier requires at least one lead in order to test the integration. To make it super easy for you, what you'll do is you'll continue with the test lead. Now, I want to point out, once you do that, you're going to see some funky kind of lorem ipsum type text in the lead. It's not going to be like that forever. It's just like that for the test lead. But what you always want to do, again, to make it super easy on yourself, is to continue with the test lead. And then you'll see a screen that looks like this. If you're logged in, you're going to go straight to Zapier. If you're not logged in, hold on, let me see if I can log out real quick. Because I want you to be able to see what that screen looks like if you're not logged in. Because if you don't do it correctly, you'll end up it'll take you a little bit longer to get it right. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to close this. All right, so I'm going to click the integrate button again. Same thing, continue with the test lead. And if you're not logged in, or if you haven't yet created a Zapier account, what you're going to do is you're going to scroll down. It says you haven't been invited to use bucket.io app on Zapier. So what you're going to want to do here is, if you do have a Zapier account, you're going to want to click log in to accept invite. If you don't yet have a Zapier account, that's not a problem. You can click sign up to accept invite. They have the free service. It doesn't require you go and do a bunch of confirmation while you're setting it up. So it would literally be just a matter of you entering your account details and creating the account. So if you don't have an account, click sign up to accept. If you do have one and you're just not logged in, just click log in to accept. Then I'm going to log in real quick. And we've got this My First Zap with bucket.io app. So your first thing you're going to do, obviously, is create this Zap. Then, since we're doing a Discover, we're going to click New Discover. If you're doing it for a segmentation funnel, you would click New Segmentation. So we'll click that. Since we've already connected our account, we can go to the next. If you haven't yet connected your account, you only have to do this once, but it's super simple. You would just simply click Connect Account, and, oh, you know what, let me do this first. To get your API code to connect, all you've got to do is come back over here to Bucket, click on your name, click on Account Settings, and then copy this API key. Then you come over here, click Connect on Account. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied here. You paste that API key here, hit Yes, Continue, and your account will be connected to Zapier. Your Bucket account will be connected to Zapier. And like I said before, you only have to do that once. As you can see, this one, it was added a couple months back. Hit Save and Continue. Then here's where we'll actually choose the discovery survey we're going to use. And since I didn't save, see, remember I changed the name over here. Since I didn't save that, it went back to the copy up. That's fine. We'll leave it like that for now. But you'll just choose that that discover survey. And let me point something out. Excuse me. Let me point something else out here for a second. You'll notice that we have these different names in here, and you see what I was telling you earlier about naming your survey, the public name. This is what it means by public. It's available for you to use in choosing. So if you get here and you've got one that looks similar to others, you can see where that might be confusing. So once again, just make sure when you're naming your surveys or your segmentation files, you keep in mind that later on you will have to refer to that again, and you want it to be as simple as possible. So we've got this one here. And then you'll just do it. Okay, so what it's doing now is it's going to go take that test lead that you put in and make sure everything's connected and working correctly. All right, so we've got this test successful. We'll hit continue. Now you want to add your email service provider. Right? This is where the info from Bucket is going to go. And as you can see here, I've got Active Campaign, you've got Entreport, you've got Mailchimp, you've got Drip. You'll just search for the one that you use. You've got Infusionsoft. You'll just choose the one that you're going to want to use here, and this is where I'm going to stop because each one of these is totally different from the other. Active Campaign, this doesn't look the same as Infusionsoft. It doesn't look the same as ConvertKit, Mailchimp. They all look, different because they're all different companies. But inside of each one, you'll see you can create contacts or however your email service provider is set up. Then from there, you just walk through the process of connecting to your email service provider. And then once that's set up, you can now begin sending the information from Bucket when someone takes your survey or your segmentation funnel, and you send that directly to your email service provider. So back over to Bucket. Let me actually, since I forgot to save that. I'll just do, hold on one second, I'll just change this over to 9A. I'm going to save it this time so we don't have to do that again. Now, let's take just a quick look. I'm going to kind of breeze through these next parts so that we can get to the segmentation funnel. And I'll go a little bit deeper into a couple of these here. So you can add a Facebook pixel to your survey, and you can also add it to a segmentation funnel. And what that means is you can go into your Facebook Ads Manager, get your pixel, and start tracking and building an audience based on the answers that people give, or whether or not they actually complete your survey or not. So to do that, you just simply turn this on, paste your pixel code in here, and do some basic configuration. Field logic is where you can pass the value from one field into other fields. So let's say someone chose, let's say we had are you a male or female, and someone chose male. Then you could say, hey, if you're a man, you don't have to say if you're a male, through the rest of the site. You could say things like man or woman, right? You can also add Google Analytics. It works exactly the same way. I'm going to click back here just to make sure to turn it off. You can add Google Analytics. It works the same way as the Facebook Pixel. You just go into Google Analytics, get your Google code, paste it here, and do some basic configurations. Again, all this stuff is optional. You don't have to do it. And we do have further training in both the knowledge base and in future webinars like this one that will go into much more detail. Also, you can pass custom UTM variables through your surveys and your segmentation files as well. Like I said, the reason I just kind of breeze through these is they're a little bit more advanced beyond getting started with. But if there's any questions that you have on any of these, you can certainly ask them in the Q&A. And like I said before, we also have help videos and tutorials, and we'll have future webinars on these. So once you're done configuring your survey, and we'll go back through again, make sure you get this thing filled out. And if you want to put an image in, so you've got everything configured, you've got it built, you've got it designed. Now it's time to publish. Just make sure, just save. Oh crap. So if you leave it empty, you can't have it turned on. All right. Now, once you go to publish, you have one last chance. Do you want it to be a full page? Do you want it to be a button? We talked about these earlier, the difference between the two. Then what you'll do is, if you don't have a custom domain, which I will show you how to do later, if you don't have a custom domain, you can simply come in here and choose one of the default domains. So you've got bucket surveys, bucket quizzes, bucket pages, etc. You choose whichever one you want. Hit publish your discovery survey. Now, if you didn't add a welcome page, you're always going to get this. It's not it's not a big deal. Let's say if you didn't put a contact information page or a thank you page, whatever's missing from the build section, it will remind you that that wasn't included. And so you can either go back to the build page and finish it, or you just say, I understand, publish anyways. And then once you're done, you're given your link to the survey. And to take it to the world, you just simply click this copy button here. And let's go take a little look at this thing. And you got yourself a discovery survey, live and ready to go. So we can just put a little test response here. And you see it takes you straight to your contact information screen. Oh, wait, of course. And then, as you can see, it takes you to the thank you page. And obviously, the more you do these, the faster you'll be able to walk through them and get them up and running. So now that we have created a discovery survey, let's take a look at the reporting.
Hey, Jeremy, it's EA here again. Just got a couple quick questions that hopefully you can knock out here just while we're at this section. The first one of these comes from Alex, and the question is can you, was it Alex or Yvonne? The question was, can we see a preview before publishing of the actual survey?
Great question, and yes, you can. If you don't want to publish it right away, you can always click preview from any screen inside of the survey. So you see we've got a preview. Just discard, change it. Oh, I see what's happening. So since I put a test response in here, I'm getting this, hey, are you sure you want to make any changes? Because if you make changes with the survey, sorry, I know we're kind of going off on a little tangent here, just since it popped up, I might as well explain it. If you make changes to your survey and there's already been responses in there, Bucket will overwrite those responses. Okay, so just be aware of that. But yes, to answer your question, let me click this. Yes, I want to edit. You just click the preview button, and it will take you to the preview screen. And again, you can do that on any of the screen that you're on. So if you're making like a tweak to the logo, you can change it from the design screen. If you just want to check a preview as you're building it, say if you just want to see how does the question look once you type it in, again, you'll be able to do that through the preview button.
And then the other question that you have while we're here would be specifically around the names that people will see when you send it out. You talked about the public name that you see in the actual surveys. What name will they see when they receive their survey?
So the name that they will see is, oh, wrong button, is over here where it says title. This is what people will see. So get live one-on-one help with bucket.io is, that's the name that you'll see when you see up here where it says get live one-on-one help with bucket.io. And when I paste the link, this is what you'll see along with this description as well. So that's why I pointed it out at least 3 or 4 times. They do say it's used by social networks and search engines, but it's also this is what people will see. But there's not like like when you get to your first question. Oh, my goodness, oh, it's gonna keep asking me. Oh, my brain just like stopped working for a second. Yeah, so what they'll see is the first question, or on the welcome page, whatever content you put there, that's what they'll see. They won't see like your naming stuff, but again, except for the title and the description over on the configure screen. Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks for answering those 2 questions, Jeremy. We can get back to your presentation.
Cool. So, like I said, now that we've built it, we want to kind of take a look at the reporting. And because inside of the discovery survey, you've got some advanced reporting so that, once you've got the information coming in, Bucket wants to make it as easy as possible for you to use that information. So why don't we dive into this report real quick. So what you'll do is, to get to the reporting on your survey, you'll come down. Again, we're back on the discovery survey screen. And I'm just going to find one that has a good amount of responses so we can look at that. So we've got analytics. You'll click on analytics for the survey that you want to investigate and look at the reporting for. And as a snapshot, what Bucket gives you is the performance of the survey, right? So you're able to see how many people saw it versus how many people began to take it. And as you can see here, that's about 60% for this survey. You've got the number of people completing the survey after they saw it, which, as you can see, is 100%. And if we had the contact information page, Bucket would also show you your opt-in rate. This is great information to use and have right at your fingertips, because if you've got a survey out there that let's say had 30% or lower participation rate, then there's something you probably need to adjust on that front screen, right? If you're sending people to just the question and you've got a low response, either edit the question or perhaps add a welcome screen, right? And if the completion rate is low, then obviously you want to dive into some of the questions and figure out where the drop-off is. And as luck would have it, Bucket also gives you that information as well. So you can see here what the response or what the performance rate is for each question. So we can see here, since the first question is the first thing people see, you've got that 60%. Then everything else is 100. But if you could see, like let's say you saw a drop-off here, you would know, hey, I either need to change that question or, get rid of it. If you've got any question in your survey where people are dropping off. You also have your thank you page stats, and this is just how many people have seen the thank you page. Now, for the word cloud, this is, we talked earlier about if you create an SMIQ and you mark it, or you create a long text element and you check it as an SMIQ, what Bucket will then do is come in here and analyze the responses that were given in that in that question, and tell you, and just kind of start pointing out the buzzwords. Like, these are the words that were used the most in this survey. Some of these are kind of, they don't make sense, right? Like am, up, how. They kind of seem to be larger than the others. So what you could do is come over here to where it says words and start taking some of those out. Things like getting, set up is probably one of the things. Am. So then what happens once you do that, you start seeing some of the bigger, more important words making their way to the top, right? You've got survey, Zapier, Facebook. Again, so we can start seeing right away what people are really looking for just as a snapshot. And you can use that in your own surveys to start thinking of or start seeing the trends or the buzzwords that your audience is using when they're telling you, when they're answering your open-ended questions.
So Jeremy, we have a very specific question that came in with word clouds. So, okay. And this is a relatively basic one, but I think it's a good one so that we're all on the same page. You're saying that you can remove words here, and that words are bigger or smaller. Like, why is a word, so on your screen we see survey is huge in the middle of that page versus the word, saying or response is teeny tiny on that page. What is the size of the word based on?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I just see that's what happens when you assume, right? The way the word cloud works is the more frequently a word is used, the bigger that it is in the word cloud. So if you've got, like, I think this one had, what, 70 or 80? Yeah, we had about 80 people answered this question. And out of that 80, as the larger these words appear, the more of those 80 people were using these words in their response to us. So if we said, hey, what's your biggest challenge when it comes to using Bucket? All of a sudden you're seeing things, or what do you want to know most about Bucket? You're seeing things like, oh, I need help with segmentation, survey. These are just, they're larger the more times that they're used, the more frequently they're used throughout the different participants taking the survey. Did I explain that good? Does that make sense?
That does make sense, Jeremy. Thank you for explaining that.
No problem. All right, so this is like I said, this is that kind of, you see it, simple to use part of the interface, but you can also look deeper into each of the responses themselves. And so a couple of things to point out, what I did here is I clicked on the responses. So as you've got your hyperscore here, what Bucket's doing is it's analyzing the number of words that are used. It's analyzing whether someone completed the entire survey. It's looking at a bunch of different things. And like I mentioned before, if you collect email and phone number, it's also using those responses to calculate what's called a hyperscore. Because the higher the number here, the more you should be taking a look at this person's response and really using it. Because you'll notice a response that really kind of tells you what's going on has a much higher number than maybe someone down here who has maybe just like a 1 or 2 word type deal. Again, that just helps you to decide, okay, which of these do I really need to be paying attention to versus what can I, with some of these lower scores you can use to just kind of back up what you learned from the hyperscores, right? So it's not like this answer down here, setting up my deep dive survey, it's not like that doesn't matter, But what you really want is someone giving you these higher scores and then using those lower scores to kind of back up what you pulled out of the higher score. I don't want to go too deep. I think most of you guys are in the Ask Masterclass, and where they go super deep into understanding this type of information. On top of responses, you can also download them as a CSV. So if you've got a favorite spreadsheet, which we all have a favorite spreadsheet, right? You could download there and then do further analysis or use it in maybe any other reporting software that you use to just, again, make better decisions. And whenever you download, it comes with everything, including the hyperscore, and if you collect an email and phone number and so on, you'd be able to download all of that stuff. So that's how the reporting works for your segmentation funnel. We've kind of gone through the whole hour. We're pretty close to an hour, and I haven't quite gotten to segmentation builds because I know a lot of you are probably still in the discovery survey phase. What I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of breeze through the segmentation funnel. If you have questions on it, we can answer those in the Q&A. If you're currently building a segmentation funnel and you need more help with it, I'll invite you to a one-on-one call. And again, we do have some more deeper training in segmentation funnels. I do want to walk you through what a segmentation funnel is, show you a couple, and just kind of walk you through the screens. But if you still have questions on those, we can certainly answer those in the Q&A, and again on a one-on-one call if that's something you need help with. So a segmentation funnel, what it is that where a survey lets you ask questions, what the segmentation funnel does is lets you prescribe solutions. So now that you know what people are looking for and what questions they have, you can feed those back to them through the segmentation funnel, capture the lead, and customize the outcomes based on your solution. What happens when you do that is basically anytime you're giving somebody a customized outcome, there are much higher chance of them converting. And I'll walk you through some of that real quick here. So the first thing I want to do is show you a couple of high-performing segmentation funnels. So in this one here, it's I think the last report I saw was that it generated like 20,000 leads in less than a month. And this is a tennis quiz. And so they start out their quiz. You can see here you've got images plus the text options. So we start right off the bat segmenting this person who's taking this quiz into whether or not they're a man or a woman. So apparently they've got, let me go back here. I may have just had this sitting there for too long. So instantly, once you click on "Am I man?" it takes you into how old are you. So now we're segmenting by demographics, right? So I'm in my 30s. Now beyond demographics, now they're getting more into solution specific. So what is your NTRP rating? Mine is as low as it goes, or I don't know. Which of the following would you say you struggle with the most? Again, since you can see here, what they're doing is they're segmenting, and something else that you want to kind of take a note of here is the subtlety. This is a man running around, in the example pictures. So again, but what you're doing is you're further segmenting yourself. They're coming up with the perfect solution for you. You get one more answer here. And are you willing to try something new? Well, yes, I am. And now they've got the perfect outcome for you. You put in your email address, and they're going to sell you or present you with their solution that fits everything that you told them you have wrong with your serve or whatever other problem you have playing doubles tennis, right? So can you imagine how much more? You just see why they have 20,000 leads in a month. I mean, and their conversion rates on the back end of this must be huge. The same thing with Mr. Hyatt. Michael Hyatt created a platform assessment. I'm going to just walk you through. This is a really long one, so I'm just going to walk you through it and show you, again, how the segmentation portion works. And both of these, by the way, if you can't tell, are all made in Bucket. I think this one did something like 10,000 leads in a month or something like that. It was again, I'm showing you some high performing funnels so you can see what the potential is. So we've got a platform assessment here, and what Mr. Hyatt does is he starts doing the same type of segmentation, but it's a little different where he's not asking male, female, or demographics. He's asking more in-depth questions to help his audience, pretty much self-identify so that he knows exactly what to offer them. So in the case here, to what extent have you defined your message and gotten clear on the value you add to your readers? I mean, that's pretty in-depth. And so as you read through it, you start segmenting yourself into his solution, and so on and so forth. And by the time you answer all of his questions, as you can see, he's using a progress meter up here, and we've got a ways to go to finish it. But by the time you're done with that, I'm imagining his solution is pretty customized for you as well. And the way that you do those is you create a segmentation funnel like this inside of Bucket, is to go into the segment screen up here. And a lot of it is very similar to creating a survey. You have the option to create a full page, which looks like the two that we just looked at. You could also create a button, or you could have an entry, a splash, or an exit pop up. And basically what happens, I mean, they're all the same as like the button, but what happens is you will give your website, Bucket generates a code for you, you put it on your website, and depending on which one of these you chose, that's how the segmentation funnel will be displayed to your users. So I'm going to close that. I'm going to take just a quick look at the inside of one of these segmentation funnels, just so you can see how it looks on the inside, the innards. So what I did is I just clicked edit on one that's currently existing. As you can see, it looks exactly the same. The build page looks exactly the same as the survey. Like I said before, they both follow the same workflow: build, design, configure, and publish. So like before, you have a welcome page, and this is where you would put the copy. One thing I did want to point out here is that this is this is a YouTube video, and like I mentioned before, you can use YouTube, Facebook, Wistia, anyone that has this embed code on there as part of their service. One thing I want to point out is that you can have, you see on this discovery survey, you only had one thank you page, but on the segmentation funnel, you have multiple outcome pages. So this is where you get into that customization, right? You have a solution that helps solve, in this case, hitting a goals and deadlines, or knowing what's really working today, getting detailed feedback on your business. And I'm going to just pull this up real quick. You can customize each of the outcome pages that go with the responses from your survey, or from your segmentation funnel in the question section here. And basically, so you can see here you've got this first question, what roadblock is holding you back in your business? And you've got these choices here. Hitting my goals and deadlines. You notice they kind of match up with the outcome pages, right? And the reason you do that is so that if you click on, you see this little funnel here, you can map the response that your customer gives, or the person who's taking your segmentation survey. You can have them click, if they choose hitting my goals and deadlines, you can say, you know what, this person will go to hitting my goals and outcomes, hitting my goals and deadlines outcome. Same thing with the rest of these. You'll notice that I have one here that is not filled in, and I'll just do a quick explanation on why that's not, why we didn't map that real quick. You also have the ability to do branching logic. Again, if this seems like I'm moving kind of quick through here, I'm doing that intentionally because we could really spend we should spend a full hour on this section as well. But I just want you to kind of be aware of what is available here, so that after you've built your survey and you're ready for a segmentation funnel, you can jump in and start using this. So what I've done here is I clicked on, I'm going to go back real quick just to show it again. I clicked on branching logic. And so everyone who answers any of these top 3 questions, I can send them straight to the lead capture page. But for this 4th question, it needed a little more detail. We needed to know if you're feeling overwhelmed on what to do next. We've got another question, so we would send anyone who answers this question to question 2. And question 2 is, where are you getting overwhelmed the most in technology or with your business ideas? And then on this screen, we would do the mapping. Click that. You would do the mapping to their specific outcome page, right? So that's why we skipped the overwhelm on the first mapping, because the one question didn't really solve it. We had to take them to an additional question. You can also have as many outcome pages as you do, or I'm sorry, lead capture pages as you do outcome pages. The reason you would do that is if you wanted to improve the number of people who are opting into your email list, you could customize the opt-in screen as well as the outcome page, right? So as you can see here, I'll show you how to use Business Mastery to start hitting your goals and deadlines today. This would come off of their answer that they gave you, right? So again, looking to improve the number of people who actually give you their name and email address. Go into discard changes. And so this is kind of like the very basics of what's included in building a segmentation funnel. If you have questions, if something's popping up in your mind right now, if I maybe move too quickly through this part, feel free to ask it in the chat, and we'll make sure we address it before we get off this call. Otherwise, like I said, I'm going to make an invitation to get on a one-on-one call with a specialist if you are building a segmentation funnel right now.
Well, and Jeremy, this might be actually a good time to talk about that. I know you got a few more things to go through here, but we've got people requesting our one-on-one times, and they're having to bounce out. So it could be. So if you have some time to just pull that up, just so they can have that link, just to get registered, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah. Why don't I go ahead and do that now? Before I do that, let me explain to you what it is, because we'll come back to our one-on-one, and I think this is a great time for you to understand what the one-on-call is. Not just only what it is, but who's it for. I know you guys need to get moving, but if you want to talk to a bucket specialist about anything, first of all, it's a free call, and it's for you if you have your bucket.io account activated, and even if you just have a small start, like if you've just kind of gotten things kicked off. And if there's any kind of specific question that you have that's got you feeling blocked in any way, whether it's a basic question like something from your survey, or something more advanced like some of those deeper features, but here's the thing: if you have not yet activated your bucket.io account, there's no way that the one-on-one call will work for you, and we can't offer you the one-on-one call yet. So if you haven't activated, make sure you activate before you schedule a call. Or if you schedule a call now and you haven't activated, make sure you get activated before the actual call. And here's how it works. What I'll do, or what a bucket specialist will do, is give you a call and look over your shoulder. We'll do like a screen share where we look over your shoulder and see, let you do the driving, right? You do the pointing, the clicking, the typing, and all that. And one of us will look over your shoulder and say, no, you're doing that wrong, or oh, that's great, you're doing that exactly right. Because right now, if you've never used the software before, you might not even know what you don't know. And that's perfectly fine. That's exactly what we do on those calls, is make sure that you're getting the absolute best survey or segmentation funnel up and running. So it's a 15-minute call, and again, it's very focused on your bucket account. There's no problem too large or small. And we put these bullets in here just so you know that it's okay if it's just the tiniest question. If you can't seem to figure out how to make it look exactly the way you want, chances are in the 99.9% high that we could get that figured out in just a few short minutes. So any of your questions and problems can typically be solved in a very short phone call. So, and again, you'll be back on track and empowered to actually move forward. You can see here, and you probably have seen this already if you're in the Ask Masterclass. I see a lot of people after they get off the call, they'll just go straight over there and say, "Oh, this thing's amazing." And I'm not going to sit here and toot my own horn, no matter how much I want to, but a lot of people get a lot of value out of these calls. Even again at the very, very beginning, if they don't, it doesn't have to be some big, amazing, hard to figure out thing. It could be a super small thing. So what I'm going to do now is in the chat, I'm going to put a link. As you guys saw earlier, we built this thing inside of Bucket. So let me come over here to Discover. And just going to take this one here. Oh, here it is. This is why you name them, right? I mean, I was sitting here looking at it for a second. I didn't see these didn't make sense, but as we have here, the 9 a.m. on 8/8, I'm going to grab this link, hit copy, and let me see. I'll put this in the chat. And real quick, after I put this in, can you guys let me know if you're seeing this? Can we just get, can you let me know, if these, if people can see this? Here, I'll see if I can, okay, I'm seeing a couple of yes. All right, great. Yeah, so use that link. What will happen is once you click that link, we'll just kind of ask you what issue you're having. Even if you don't know what your issue is, if you just want someone to look over your shoulder and just kind of guide you through that first process, just put, I'm not really sure what my issue is, or just need some help, need some eyeballs, need someone looking at this thing with me. Totally fine. I'm gonna also, I'm gonna try to put this in another. I'm still trying to figure out all the different little places on GoToWebinar where I should put this thing. So I'm gonna push this. I put it one more time in there, and I'll probably do it one more time after the Q&A, just in case you guys need it. So there's a link. If you guys need to bounce out of here, that's totally fine. I mean, all we're gonna do from this point on is literally go through where to go to get help, and then answer whatever questions that didn't get answered on the actual call itself. So, in fact, Mr. EA, if you could, I don't know if you have a list of ones that didn't get an answer.
I actually do. I was literally about to step in and say something. So one of the things that that I'm glad you actually mentioned that help, Jeremy, because Brian asked a very interesting question here, and it's a great question. It's, hey, it would be nice to have an organized repository of these training webinars, basically where we can get them either in the knowledge base or on the portal. So why don't you show people where they can actually get access to these webinars? Because we do have a couple places, right? We have the FAQ section, and then we actually have our YouTube channel as well.
Yep, that's right. And so, so if you anywhere inside the main screen of Bucket, you can always click on Help, and any of the major issues that you might be having. So if if you're building a Discover survey and you want help with that, you can come in here and access one of our one of our webinars or an actual dedicated tutorial. What we're also doing is we're adding more and more videos in here, so that if you have a question, instead of trying to read a how-to FAQ, you can actually watch the video that steps you through it. In fact, here's a couple of ones that I know get a lot of, here, let me go back here, get a lot of play. So you've got setting up your Google Analytics or connecting Bucket to a specific email provider using Zapier. Again, once you click on help, you can pretty much get access to answers or anything that you need. With the actual webinars themselves, we go through them, cut them up a little bit, and make sure that it's a lot easier to digest than an hour of some things that may not be necessary for you, and then you can access those in the YouTube channel. And what we'll do is everyone who's on this call will get an email with a link to the recording. And we also put them on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/bucket.io. If the problem goes beyond like a survey, or not a survey, like a video or a tutorial, if you're having an issue, you just can't seem to figure something out, something just does not seem to be working the way either you're seeing it recorded, or the way you heard it here, or the way you think it should, you can always click on this little smiley face here and talk to one of our super smiley faces at Bucket. And again, any question, or even if you have something that you wish Bucket did and you can't seem to make Bucket do it, then you could jump on here and say, hey, do you think you guys could maybe possibly add this feature that I'm looking for? And this is a great place to do that. If you have kind of a more advanced question, or you just flat out can't get into Bucket, here, let me pull this screen back up. You can always shoot an email to support@bucket.io. So if it's like a major issue of like an account issue or something like that, and you can't access the in-app messaging, then shoot us an email over at support@bucket.io. We'll be happy to get you straightened out. So let's kind of dive into a few more of this Q&A. There was a good question about the help topics, and again, like I said, super simple to access that just via the helpline at the top.
So Jeremy, real quickly, the other thing that I'm seeing here a lot, and we just verified that this is the case, our one-on-ones were extremely popular this time, and we've actually just filled up all of our slots for our one-on-one times. We have a few specialists that are able to take those. With that said, I do know that there's a lot of people on this webinar that do want to take advantage of those one-on-ones. So this is what I want you to do. Just continue to just let us know in the chat window that you'd like to schedule one of those one-on-ones if you have not gotten on the schedule yet. I think we're going to try to get 3 or 4 more slots, maybe 5 more slots open and available if they're not already taken. So go ahead and just let us know in the chat section that you do want to get one of those slots, and we'll make sure to reach out to you separately.
Yeah, do you have a way of recording that?
I do.
We definitely do want to make sure, if you want one, we'll get you in it.
Perfect. So Joe, I see yours. Don, I saw yours. Carrie, yeah, I'm starting to see all these guys, so this is good. Thank you. Just go ahead and keep putting them in here, and I'll make sure that we follow up separately. So one of the other things here, Jeremy, so I'm not sure how much you want to really get into this, because it's a more advanced feature in the application with the segmentation, is we've had a few questions about branching logic. The first question is, what does that even mean? What is branching logic? And then how do I actually use it on my surveys?
Sure, and that's a really good question, because no matter what, I mean, you definitely at least need to know how to use it and what it's all about. So I'm gonna jump into this one here, and just kind of walk you through it. So what branching logic is if someone gives you a response and you need further clarification on it, or you want to take them down in a direction to help you give them the best possible solution, the next question may not be the obvious choice. You may have to go a little bit deeper. So like in this case, to access the branching logic screen, first of all, what you'll do is you'll create your question number 1, right? You'll have your options in there, and you need at least one other question. You can't do branching logic with just one question, so you will need at least 2 questions. And then what happens is, if if someone chooses something, one of the options in the, I'm going to go into branching logic. If someone chooses an option that requires the a further look or a deeper look into it, then you would jump them. Basically, what you're doing is now you're branching the responses into into diving deeper into asking more questions or sending them to another spot in your survey or your segmentation funnel, right? So that how it works is, like in this case here, we had the three responses that would go straight to their own outcome page. But let's say we had this one here, this fourth option, where it didn't really fit one outcome. There's actually two solutions that fit this major issue of having feeling overwhelmed. So what we would do there is we branch using branching logic. We take that person to the next question, which is this question 2, where you can ask them go a little bit deeper into into their issue, right? So where are you getting overwhelmed the most? Like this is where you would just dive deeper into that. So similar, you could do. And I hate to get into examples here because yours is going to be totally different, but this is just like one aspect of it. So if you've got a question that needs further explanation from your survey taker or the person who's going through your segmentation funnel, you would use branching logic to kind of dive deeper, or even skip questions that if that person chose a response that maybe the next question in line would be irrelevant to that person, you can do that as well. So basically, branching logic just gives you control over what the person sees next based on the answer that they give. I kind of took the long way of telling you that, but does that make sense?
That does. I think that's helpful, and that definitely clarifies it for a few people. Um, and then here's another question that we received, and maybe this will be helpful. Hey, I'm new to bucket.io, and I see that there's segmentation here. I see that there's discovery. What's the simplest way to get started?
The simplest way to get started is with a Discover survey. I mean, if you're just using Bucket and or if you don't already have like a lot of survey data to use, using a Discover survey will give you great insight into building your segmentation funnel. So if you have an audience already that you can survey that's in your market, I would always suggest just building that real quick, because first of all, they're super simple to build. You start getting responses in them, and they work hand in hand with the segmentation funnels, right? So as we saw earlier, so the easiest way, like I was saying before, click on Discover and create a Discover survey. But like we mentioned earlier, so let's go back into this analytics screen. Once you have people answering your Discover survey, what you can do is use what's coming in from either the responses or the word cloud to identify what you need to build in your segmentation funnel. So if you don't already have all that information to go just build a segmentation funnel out real quick, then definitely starting with a discovery survey is the best idea.
Perfect. All right, great. So just one or two more questions here, Jeremy, and then we'll close up. We're 20 minutes past our time. Just as a reminder to everybody, we have received this question. We will be sending out a replay of this presentation. So if you weren't able to sit through the whole thing, don't worry. You will be able to receive a replay of it and sit through it. You also have access to our other training videos that are listed on YouTube, and then our other training that's actually in our FAQ section. So be aware of that. There's lots of places for you to get help. You can always reach out to us as well at support@bucket.io as well. So the last questions we'll ask you here, Jeremy, and thanks for flashing that screen up. That makes it a lot easier for everyone. The last question I want to ask you specifically relates to changing questions and changing parts of the survey. We've gotten this question quite a few times, and I think you even saw that you received that notification that when you go in to change a survey, what may end up happening is you're going to lose some of your data anytime you modify a survey. So could you walk us through what that means, and then just walk us through kind of best practices as it relates to just copying a survey and then and making changes on the new one?
Yeah, anytime you have real data inside your survey, um, you don't want to you don't want to actually edit that specific survey, because what happens is, here I'm not going to do it because I've got, you see here we've got 79 responses inside this survey here. If I were to go click edit, Bucket's going to be like, hold on a minute. Hey, if it's got a response already in it, if you edit this survey, it will delete the data that's inside of it, because making a change, it seems simple to us, you know, hey, it was just changing a question. But on the program side, it's a big deal, right? So anytime you have a survey that has real responses in it, you know, whether you send it out through email or ran ads, so whatever, if it has responses in it and you want to make changes, what you want to do is clone the survey to edit it. Because what that does is it creates a copy of it. You can go make it look or function any way that you want, and then you'll have a link to that survey. So instead of overwriting these 79 responses here, I just created a copy of it, and I can go in and edit and make whatever change I want to inside that survey.
Perfect.
And
All right.
and just real quick, I just want to kind of point this out too. If you don't want to tease the bull and click edit on one that you've already got responses in, because again, you know, people, we do weird things, right? And we mess up. So to avoid that altogether, if it's got responses and you don't want to click the edit button, you can also clone by clicking this button up here. It'll let you clone it, and just avoid the whole idea of even messing with that. So that's how you would clone, and that's how you edit a survey that already has responses. Same thing with the segmentation funnel. If it's got responses, it's got data that you want to hold on to, just create a clone.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for explaining that, Jeremy. Once again, I want to take some time to thank everybody that joined us for this morning's webinar. We do have another webinar coming up this afternoon. Jeremy, what's that webinar on specifically?
At 4 o'clock Central Standard Time this afternoon, we are going to do a webinar on reporting. So where we talked a little bit about, you know, we looked at the analytics, we looked at, you know, some of the options. We're going to dive deeper into that this afternoon for both the discovery survey and the segmentation funnel, so that you guys can get a look at not only how to get the insights and how to use them and what all is available to you, but on the segmentation side, how to use the analytics to create a more optimized machine, right? Because that's one of the biggest features of Bucket, is that we're built on increasing conversions. Like that's one of the big it's one of the big reasons why you would use Bucket, is your ability to always optimize for conversions, and that's something that we'll be covering in detail this afternoon. Again, 4 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll dive into the reporting and the analytics, how to use that data for your own surveys and insights and segmentation funnels.
So I'd strongly encourage anyone that's interested in that to sign up for the webinar this afternoon. Realize if you can't attend live, we do send out a replay of the webinar. So you'll be able to receive that information and watch it kind of at your own time if that time zone does not work for you. What I'll do here, Jeremy, let me grab a link for that, and I'll post it here in the chat so people can have that as well. And awesome. while I'm doing that, I'll let you kind of just finish this up for us and take us home.
Yeah, that's great. So once again, guys, you know, we totally appreciate you getting on this call and asking your questions. Since we have already filled up all of our slots on the one-on-one, we'll be reaching out to anyone who did not. And if you didn't mention, if you still want a slot on the one-on-one calls, go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll take one last look at it before we get out of here. That way, again, we get everyone who wants one. We don't want to leave you just out hanging just because we ran out of spaces. We'll make spaces to get in touch with everyone here if you need the one-on-one action. Trying to see if there's anything maybe I missed here. No, I think that's it. I think, as you say, there was a limited number here, and it's going to be like that in the future. Another invitation I'd like to make too, not only to this 4 o'clock webinar this afternoon, but we do hold these webinars every Tuesday at 9 and 4 o'clock, the same times, and you can attend any one of these you want. So if you've been to this getting started and you just want to keep coming back to get to hammer out anything that you need help with, you can attend as many of these as you'd like, as well as any of the other webinars that we hold that are more specific. Like we'll do some Zapier ones, we'll do some integrations, Facebook Pixel, Google. This afternoon, like I mentioned before, we're going to be doing the reporting. So were you able to find that link to
I did. I dropped it in the actual chat window.
Awesome.
I actually had just posted the GoToWebinar link, not the bucket link, simply because we'll know who these people are since they're already in.
Yep.
That way you can just click through and just register for it. So we look forward to seeing you this afternoon.
Sounds good. Thank you guys so much again, and we'll talk to you again soon.